best case scenario for Trump map, I still have Kamala winning.
Look, your keys are pointing toward Kamala Harris. Has anything happened in the last few weeks that makes you feel more confident in your prediction?
Nothing has changed.
To explain, because I do have the Kamala landslide scenario. And by landslide, I mean that she wins some level of victory in all 7 of the swing states.
A few moments later.
Good morning. It's now 5:35 here in the East. We are allowing all of our stations across the country to join us now with the breaking news. We are projecting at this hour the 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump, will be elected to return to the White House. Not consecutive terms. We mentioned a moment ago as we were on our air with our coverage, the first since Grover Cleveland to serve non-consecutive presidential terms. Donald Trump returning to the White House as the 47th president of the United States.
Okay, so I'm not going to bury the lead. Trump won everything. He won all the swing states. He performed remarkably well among independents, blacks, Hispanics. I'm talking about he just essentially ran the table. So before I get into my analysis, here is News Nation recapping what happened last night.
HQ, they did a great job. We talked about this earlier of setting us up and then of making the calls really earlier and as accurate as anybody, but earlier than anyone. And if you walk through it here on the big board, you'll see what I mean. And Anna's right. We were looking at North Carolina and Georgia early on. By the way, where are we now? 280, 224, 270 needed to win. So Trump's over the top. Not only in the Electoral College, but it looks right now, we'll see how California comes in, like he'll be the first Republican since 2004 to win the popular vote. I think George W. Bush had about a 3 million lead there at the end of the popular vote, and Trump looks like he might very well top that. Anyway, we still have Michigan on the board, Arizona, Nevada. It's not going to matter. Those will just be additions for Trump. If we go back and think about where we were at the start of the night, I was going to say, for those of you just joining us, but if you're just joining us, you probably should have your head examined to turn on the TV at 3 o'clock in the morning after the election's been called. But that said, Georgia and North Carolina come in, and what Scott and the guys at DDHQ were saying is if they called, there's 16 votes each, electoral votes. If they called both, and they did, fairly early in the night, relatively speaking, those 32 electoral votes would give Trump 251, and they said it would give him about an 85% chance of winning, right? That's what we knew this coming in. We're thinking, boy, as soon as those get called, he's in good shape. But we're also saying the best path to victory for Kamala Harris would be to win these 3, to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the so-called blue wall. And it didn't seem out of the question. But the problem for Harris all night long is her margins. They just weren't where they needed to be. And then, eventually we saw it and we're watching it and they said, yep, Alaska had already gone. So he just needed the 19, and DDHQ made the call first on Pennsylvania. And that was it. Get your colors right, Connell. So you get it right to red, and it was 270. And then Wisconsin, it was just an additional number there to get us, where we are and put them up at 280.
All right. So Trump is going to be now the next president. But I think it's fascinating. This election was an indictment, I think, on the Democratic messaging and the way they try to win elections going forward. Because this was a rejection of essentially identity politics. Here's how everything broke out, because don't forget, Trump was labeled racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-Latino, right? You had the remarks at Madison Square Garden against Puerto Ricans that was supposed to flip the Latino vote against Trump. And not only did that not happen, they actually flipped the Latino vote toward Trump. Here's CNN.
David Chalian, what are you seeing in the exit polling about the Latino vote?
Yeah, we wanted to look across all 3 blue wall states that John was just walking us through, looking at this slice of the vote, the Latino vote in the blue wall states. Now, they only make up 6% of the electorate in each of these states, but look at the difference in the margin. So Harris is getting in Pennsylvania 58% of the Latino vote, again, 6% of the electorate, to Donald Trump's 41%. That's a 17-point advantage. But 4 years ago, Biden beat Trump with Latinos in Pennsylvania by 42 points. So that is a huge movement for Trump in narrowing that gap. Similar story in Michigan. You see the Latino vote makes up a 6% of the share. Not a similar story, reverse. Donald Trump is winning the Latino vote in Michigan with 60% of the vote. Harris, 35% of the vote. That's a 25% advantage for Trump among Latinos. That is a big change when Biden won Latinos in Michigan by 11 points 4 years ago. That's a 36-point swing in the margin. And if you look at Wisconsin, Harris is at 61% among Latinos, Trump at 38%. Again, 6% of the electorate. These margins matter. That is about where Biden and Trump were 4 years ago. So not a lot of change in the Latino vote in Wisconsin, but a lot of change in Michigan and Pennsylvania towards Trump, Jake.
Fascinating stuff, David Chalian. Thanks so much. And let's talk about this with my panel here. Dana Bash, your thoughts.
I mean, Pennsylvania and Michigan, in particular Pennsylvania, because there has been so much focus on the Latino vote in Pennsylvania, especially the Puerto Rican population there, since the Madison Square Garden debacle. Even Donald Trump and the people around him, even though they're not saying it publicly, believe that what that comedian did was not helpful. And yet, according to this exit poll, it shows that let's stick with Trump, that Trump is doing way better than he did 4 years ago with that very population, the Latino population overall, not necessarily with Puerto Ricans.
So the Trump's racist against Latinos, that didn't work. And matter of fact, even in Michigan, they flipped. There were more Latinos voting for Trump than against Trump. And we started seeing this all over the electorate, especially like, for instance, in Georgia, where the black vote, for instance, even though it went heavily for Kamala, it was a lot less than it was for Joe Biden, where Joe Biden was getting 95% of, for instance, the black female vote. Kamala got like 83%. So even within her base, the people who she thought that she was going to get, she did worse than Joe Biden. Here's the clip.
Let's look at some of these other key data points. We know race was huge. The black vote was huge for Biden when he won by just a bit in Georgia there in 2020. So let's look at how they are turning out in this election. All right. This is the first time we can break this down among black voters and their support for Kamala Harris. While strong, she is below where Biden was in 2020, 4 years ago. This number for Biden was more like 91. So she's running about 8 points behind where Biden was with the black vote in Georgia in 2020. All right. I have another data point where I'm going to combine this with gender. OK, so now you look at the black male voter in Georgia. We know both candidates have spent a lot of time courting them there. Democrats have been trying to convince them that they could be better for the economy. Trump has been trying to woo those voters. Remember, inflation's more than 20% in that state. With black men, Harris is at 73%, Trump at 25%. Let me give you perspective and context on that. Joe Biden in 2020 had this number at about 87%. Okay, so right now she's running about 13 points with black men behind where Joe Biden was in 2020. All right, another data point there, Brett, because I know you asked. Black women as well in Georgia. We have been watching this. Here it is. Strong showing, 89%. But let me give you the perspective on that. Joe Biden with black women in Georgia 4 years ago was at 95% of their support. She is also running behind with them by about 6 points.
So you lost the Latino vote. You're underperforming with your core base, right? She's a black woman running for president, and she's underperforming with black women and black men. So it seemed like their only saving grace would be independent voters. Independent voters is who Harris was focusing on, saying, hey, I can convince independents to vote for Democrats than Republicans. But here's how independents, this is how they voted.
Independent voters, they make up 31% of the electorate. That is a slightly larger share than what they made up 4 years ago. Trump is winning them by 11 points in these early exit poll results, 54% to 30%. Jake, 4 years ago, Joe Biden won independent voters in Georgia when he won the state by 9 points. So we've seen a swing of 20 points towards Trump in terms of the margin. from 9-point advantage 4 years ago with independents for Biden to now an 11-point advantage with independents for Trump in Georgia. Jake.
Wow. David Chalian and Dana, that is really significant. We see some incremental changes here and there when it comes to young voters. She's doing slightly better. Non-college whites, he's doing slightly better. But that independent swing is wild.
It's a huge swing. And I just want to underscore what David said. It is a bigger percentage of the vote share. Last time around, it was 28% independents. I made up 28% of the Georgia vote, and now it is 30%. And, I was right, 31%. And it is a total flip. It's a complete flip. Donald Trump is doing so much better with independents than Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden kind of ran away with independents.
All right, so I'm going to tell you guys what I think. I think this was the indictment on the Democrats' policies on, how do I want to call it? Let me just call it identity politics. Remember when Obama won his 2 terms? When he first faced McCain, they never called McCain a racist. Never called McCain a racist. He was running against the first black candidate, but they never called McCain a racist, and Obama won easily, right? He won easily. He beat McCain easily, and that was because obviously the economy tanked from George W. Bush, so Obama won. Second time against Romney, Democrats didn't call Romney a racist. They ran a traditional campaign. Here's the issues. We believe we're going to be better, blah, 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 and they won again, right? Better candidate, Obama won again. Trump then comes, and the Democrats with Hillary Clinton went right to identity politics, right? He's a racist, he's a sexist, he's this, he's that. Every ism you can play. Again, you're going to hear it tomorrow. All the isms that's being thrown out there. And the problem, I think, is that they leaned into that so hard, it failed with Clinton, but they thought that was just a mistake. Then when Biden came on, they played it again, but it was successful because I think after the pandemic, people were kind of tired of Trump. So it was successful in the sense of Biden got in. And now with Harris, you have that same identity politics play, I think. But I think she leaned into it a lot heavier. She leaned onto it with Hispanics, right? He's going to deport everybody, and he's racist against all the Hispanics and all this other stuff. Same thing with blacks. He's a racist. How many times have you heard Trump being called racist on a view? It's like common parlance. But that's the way they ran their campaign. And I think one of the key issues against Trump-Harris was that Harris didn't give people a reason to vote for her. It was vote against this guy because he's so bad. But it's like, why am I voting for you? And when you put everything together, it seems like we want identity politics are going to win the day has failed because black men didn't buy it. As you saw in Georgia, they didn't buy it. Trump had historically large numbers against a black female candidate with black men in Georgia. They were calling him a racist. People didn't believe it. Hispanic voters. Trump is as hawkish on immigration. Kick him out, this. They say he's racist against Latinos. And guess what? He's flipped the Latino vote in his favor. And even with women, Kamala, she did win the vote amongst women, but Trump did better than he did with Biden. He did better with women than he did with Biden. Every single metric in this election, when it came to race, identity, or anything like that, went to Trump. And I think that shows that I think our country is being immunized to just calling someone racist, sexist, this or that. Because it's like the boy who cried wolf. They've said it so many times that it's like, really? And I think with Trump, it's even more damaging for the Democrats because before Trump ran for president, he wasn't even considered to be anything like some racist, none of that was even in the vocabulary when it came to Trump. Trump was in rap songs. Trump gave money to Al Sharpton. He was in the civil rights movement. Like, Trump has always been the super lefty, right? Hillary Clinton was at his wedding. Remember, he was giving money to Democrats. Trump was a Democrat for sure. And I think all that history that he had in New York with the black community, with the Hispanic community in New York, I think that meant something. I think that, people said, well, hold on. This guy's not racist. This guy says things we don't like. This guy says things that are crass, but that doesn't mean he's racist. And I think the country woke up. I think women, I think young people, I think the country woke up and they said, we're not going to be told what to do. Now, another thing I do want to mention before I get out of here is that Trump still has, I think, 6 cases that he still has to deal with. Still, the criminal cases. 5 criminal. I'm counting 5 criminal and 1 civil. Count them down. We have the documents. So let's talk about the federal cases first. The documents case in Florida, which was dismissed. That's going through appeals. It's probably going to be put back, though. And we have the January 6th case in the D.C. Circuit. Those go away. As soon as he becomes president, those go away. So I don't think Trump's going to have to deal. Those cases go away. So those 2 are off the board. Next, we have the Georgia RICO case. So just imagine, my God, he's literally going to be on trial in Georgia for trying to steal the last election after winning this election. So you have the Georgia election trial. So that trial, I think, will go on because it's a state trial. But when he's sworn in, that trial is going to have to be stopped until after, to 4 years, till after he finishes his term as president. So I think that trial is halted until after, for 4 years. And I'm assuming that goes away too. The 2 things that I think he has to worry about is the number 1, he had the New York civil judgment for those hundreds of millions of dollars. So he's got to worry about that. He's got the E. Jean Carroll judgments that he's going to have to pay out if he doesn't win those appeals. Those he can't do anything about. And then you have the New York conviction for the 34 felonies that he's being sentenced to later this month. Now, I'm assuming he's going to get fines for each one of those, and they'll probably say, we're going to fine you for all of them, and good luck, you go on about your way. So I think he's going to get fined out of the wazoo, and he's going to go for president, because they're not going to give him jail time for essentially a paper case. And it wasn't, he didn't even do anything. It was kind of like all the other people working for him, so they caught him up like that. So right now, I think all those Trump cases essentially go away. I think the Georgia case was probably the one that was most concerning, but what are you going to do? They're not going to be able to go to trial before he's inaugurated. So I think that case goes away. So as of right now, I think Trump has won everything. I think now we all reset. We're going to do an after action report. It's going to be interesting to see how everybody's coping with this. And it's wild because for me, I never saw this election as whoever wins is going to destroy the country. So there's a lot of Democrats out there who now is like, oh my God, he's won, so it's going to destroy the country. I never thought that. And there's a lot of Republicans who thought if Harris wins, it's going to destroy the country. I never thought that, because they're always going to do what they do. But I think this country has survived a lot worse. And it would have survived a Harris presidency like it's going to survive a Trump presidency. But I will have to say, Democrats have to, I think, start looking internally and saying, facts matter. These things that we're doing don't work. We have to now get people to buy into our policies. And we have to start doing things that make sense and stop trying to make narratives. For instance, like with the transgender issue. And I don't want people to feel like I'm picking on the transgender issue. But biological men against biological women in sports. We all know that's nonsense. We all know that's nonsense. But Democrats are pushing it hard. And I think that comes back to bite you in the face. Because it's like that. I understand you want to be inclusive, but at a point you have to say, well, what makes sense? But right now, if you're someone who voted for Harris, you need to ask the Democrats why they didn't run on a message. Were their policies that bad? Because if you ask people, what are some of Harris's policies? They'll say abortion, and that's it. And that just happened not to be enough. Every Harris ad I saw was about abortion. And it just wasn't enough. They tried to turn the Democratic electorate into a one-issue voter. And they saw it working in like Kansas and some other places where women came out and voted for abortion. But one thing is voting for an issue is one thing. Voting for a candidate is another. Now, even though Kamala aligns with that way of thinking, the problem is that you have to present more than just, I'm just an empty suit who's going to bring abortion back. Well, we need you to do more than just bring abortion back. We need you to run a country. We need you to do the economy. There's so much more. And I think Trump wins on everything else except for the abortion issue. So, but as always, tell me when I'm wrong in the comment section. Say, Nate, you're just totally wrong. Kamala was a great candidate. I had one person recently just tell me it's racism. I'm like, racism? Really? You didn't just see what happened? This isn't about race. This is about people's pocketbooks. Inflation, economy, that's what won this election. And those black women in Georgia who came out 95% for Biden, and then less of them came out for Kamala, I don't think they're racist. I think they said, she's not our candidate. We don't believe her. I think the 25% of black men who, again, Trump doubled his black vote, I don't think those people are racist either. I think those people are saying, you know what, things were better for us under Trump. And I think until Democrats realize that at a point you got to perform. You have to perform. The talk is one thing. And Trump, when he was there before, he did perform. The economy of the first 2 years of Trump was great. And I think that's, Democrats couldn't overcome that. They couldn't overcome that because now thinking back, if you think back to the Trump administration, the first administration, it was pretty good. And I think the Democrats can overcome that. So, but again, I'm now probably just rambling because it's super late. And, I'm fascinated with the result, and I'm fascinated with the exit polls. We'll learn more as the autopsy comes in. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do like great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and be kind to each other. I'll see you in the next one.